You know what's terrifying? It's not the moment you realize everyone around you is wearing a mask. It's the moment you realize you can never put yours back on again. If you've ever sat in a room full of people and felt like you were watching actors perform in a play they didn't even know they were in, then what I'm about to tell you might be the most important thing you hear today. Recent studies show that 73% of people admit to feeling disconnected from their authentic self in social situations. Yet nobody talks about what happens when you finally see through the performance. But I need to warn you up front, once you understand what I'm going to share, there's no going back to comfortable ignorance. Here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to admit. The person who sees through society's greatest performance is doomed to live as a permanent outsider. They call it awakening, but it feels more like exile. You'll start noticing things others can't see, how people change their entire personalities depending on who's watching, how they chase achievements that secretly make them miserable, how they maintain relationships built on nothing but mutual deception. And the worst part? The moment you stop playing along with the charade, society turns on you like an immune system attacking a virus. Right now, there are millions of people living with this terrible knowledge, feeling isolated and wondering if they're going crazy. They've discovered what I call the dark truth about modern life, that most human interaction is elaborate theater, and once you see the stage, you can never again believe the performance is real. If you're one of these people, then you already know the price of seeing too much. The loneliness, the alienation, the constant feeling that you're speaking a foreign language in your own country. But here's what's going to blow your mind, and this is why you need to stick around until the very end of this video. There's actually a way to navigate this psychological exile without losing your sanity or your soul. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through exactly what happens when someone wakes up to society's performance, why it feels like permanent banishment, and most importantly, how to live authentically in a world that punishes authenticity. I'll reveal the specific strategies that allow awakened individuals to find their tribe, maintain genuine relationships, and create meaningful lives outside the boundaries of social conformity. If this resonates with you, do me a favor. Hit that like button right now, because it tells YouTube that content like this matters, and subscribe to the channel so we can continue these crucial conversations about living authentically in an inauthentic world. Trust me, by the time we're done here, you'll understand not just why you feel like an outsider, but exactly what to do about it. Let's dive in. You know that feeling when you're watching a movie and suddenly notice the boom mic in the corner of the frame. Everything changes in that instant. The magic disappears, and you can't unsee what you've seen. That's exactly what happens when you first realize that everyone around you is performing, putting on a show they don't even believe in anymore. It might have started with something small, watching your coworker fake enthusiasm during a meeting, or seeing someone post their perfect life on social media while you know they're miserable behind closed doors. The social conformity that once felt normal suddenly looks like a massive theater production. The awakening doesn't happen overnight. It's more like a slow-burning realization that creeps into every corner of your awareness. You start noticing how people change their personalities depending on who they're with, how they laugh at jokes they don't find funny, how they chase achievements that don't actually matter to them. The authentic self gets buried so deep under layers of social performance that most folks forget it even exists. You'll catch yourself thinking, wait, does anyone actually want to be here right now? And that's when the real discomfort begins, because once you start seeing the masks, you can't stop. What makes this moment particularly jarring is realizing you've been part of the performance too. You've been nodding along to conversations that bored you to tears, pretending to care about things that felt meaningless, and molding yourself into whatever shape seemed most acceptable. The psychological awakening hits like a cold splash of water. You weren't just watching the show, you were one of the main actors. This realization often comes with a mix of relief and terror. Relief that you're finally seeing clearly, and terror about what it means for everything you thought you knew about yourself and others. Here's where things get interesting though, and a little dangerous. Once you've seen through the social masks, you can't just flip a switch and go back to playing along. It's like trying to believe in Santa Claus again after finding the presents in your parents' closet. The knowledge changes something fundamental in how you interact with the world. You'll find yourself standing in conversations, watching people perform their roles, and feeling like an alien studying human behavior. The comfortable lies that once made social situations smooth and predictable now feel suffocating. And that's just the beginning of what happens when you know too much. Ever wonder why society runs on this elaborate system of social performance in the first place? It's not some grand conspiracy, it's actually a survival mechanism that's been hardwired into us for thousands of years. Back when getting kicked out of the tribe meant certain death, learning to fit in wasn't just polite, it was literally life or death. Your ancestors, who were good at reading social cues and conforming to group expectations, were the ones who lived long enough to pass on their genes. So when you feel that gut-wrenching anxiety about standing out or being different, you're not being weak, you're experiencing an ancient alarm system designed to keep you alive. The trouble is, this same psychological machinery that once protected us now traps us in endless cycles of inauthentic behavior. Mass psychology shows us how easily people abandon their individual judgment when they're part of a group. Think about it. How many times have you found yourself agreeing with something just because everyone else seemed to? Or worse, how often have you stayed quiet when you disagreed because speaking up felt too risky? Society's greatest trick isn't forcing you to wear a mask, it's convincing you that the mask is your face. The social performance becomes so automatic that most people forget they're even doing it. What's really fascinating is how society rewards this psychological conformity while simultaneously punishing authenticity. Look around. The people who get promoted, who get invited to parties, who seem to glide through life effortlessly, they're usually the best performers, not necessarily the most genuine. They've mastered the art of telling people what they want to hear, of being just controversial enough to seem interesting, but not so authentic that they make others uncomfortable. Meanwhile, the person who dares to be real, who refuses to play the game, gets labeled as difficult or antisocial. The system protects itself by making authenticity look like a character flaw. But here's what most people don't understand about societal manipulation. It only works because we're all complicit in it. Every time you laugh at a joke that isn't funny, every time you pretend to be interested in small talk that makes you want to scream, every time you bite your tongue instead of speaking your truth, you're feeding the machine. The beautiful thing is, once you understand the psychology behind the masks, you start to see that everyone else is just as trapped as you were. They're not your enemies, they're fellow prisoners who haven't realized they have the key to their own cell. And that realization opens up a whole new level of understanding about what it really costs to see through the illusion. Here's something nobody tells you about psychological awakening. It comes with a price tag that'll make your wallet weep and your soul ache. The moment you start seeing through society's greatest performance, you realize you've bought yourself a one-way ticket to a very lonely place. It's like being the only person in a crowded room who can see that everyone's naked while they're all complimenting each other's beautiful clothes. You want to point out the obvious, but you quickly learn that most people would rather maintain their comfortable lies than face uncomfortable truth. The knowledge that once felt liberating now feels like carrying around a secret that nobody wants to hear. The hardest part isn't dealing with your own disillusionment, it's watching the people you care about continue living in ways that you can now clearly see are making them miserable. Your friend who complains constantly about their job but won't consider changing careers because that's just how life is. Your family member who stays in a toxic relationship because they're terrified of being alone. Your colleagues who spend their days in meetings that accomplish nothing but make everyone feel important. You see the pain behind their social masks, but pointing it out only makes them defensive, and you seem like the problem. It's like being a doctor who can diagnose everyone's illness but isn't allowed to prescribe the cure. What makes this particularly brutal is that your new awareness doesn't come with an instruction manual for how to live authentically in a fake world. You've lost the ability to play along with conversations that feel meaningless, but you haven't yet figured out how to connect with people in a genuine way that doesn't terrify them. You're stuck in this weird limbo where you're too awake to go back to sleep, but not skilled enough yet to navigate your new reality gracefully. Every social interaction becomes this exhausting calculation. Do I pretend to care about this surface-level conversation, or do I risk making everyone uncomfortable by trying to go deeper? The psychological exile that comes with seeing too much isn't just about being misunderstood. It's about losing your sense of belonging in the world you used to call home. You'll find yourself at parties feeling like an anthropologist studying a foreign culture, watching people perform rituals that once made perfect sense but now seem absurd. The comfortable predictability of social conformity is gone, replaced by this constant awareness that most human interactions are elaborate dances around the truth. Here's a practical tip for navigating this transition. Create what I call authenticity anchors, small, daily practices where you can be completely genuine, even if it's just journaling your real thoughts or having honest conversations with yourself in the mirror. It's exhausting, isolating, and often makes you wonder if ignorance really was bliss. But here's the thing about society. It doesn't just passively ignore people who see too much. It actively fights back. Think of society like a living organism, and you'll start to understand why it treats truth-tellers like a virus that needs to be eliminated. Just like your body's immune system attacks foreign invaders, social systems have built-in mechanisms to neutralize anyone who threatens the collective illusion. The moment you stop playing along with the performance, you'll trigger an automatic response designed to either convert you back or cast you out. It's not personal, it's just how the system protects itself from anything that might wake people up from their comfortable sleep. The first wave of attack usually comes in the form of social pressure disguised as concern. Your friends and family will start saying things like, "You've changed," or "You used to be so much fun," or "Why are you being so negative lately?" They're not trying to be malicious. They're genuinely uncomfortable with your new authenticity because it forces them to confront their own masks. When you stop laughing at jokes that aren't funny, stop pretending to care about things that don't matter, and start speaking truthfully about what you observe, it creates a mirror that reflects back everyone else's performance. And most people hate what they see in that mirror. If subtle pressure doesn't work, society escalates to direct confrontation. You'll get labeled as difficult, antisocial, cynical, or negative. These aren't random insults. They're specific psychological weapons designed to make you question your own perceptions and crawl back into line. The beautiful irony is that the same people calling you negative are often the ones living lives of quiet desperation, medicating their unhappiness with shopping, social media, and endless distractions. But pointing out this contradiction only proves their point that you're the problem. It's like that old saying, in a room full of crazy people, the sane person looks insane. What's particularly insidious about societal manipulation is how it makes you doubt your own experience. You'll start wondering if maybe you really are being too negative, too critical, too unrealistic in your expectations of authenticity. The gaslighting is so subtle and pervasive that even people who've seen through the illusion sometimes get pulled back into the performance just to stop the psychological pressure. Society knows that isolation is one of humanity's greatest fears, and it weaponizes that fear against anyone who dares to live authentically. The message is clear: conform or be cast out. But here's what they don't tell you about that casting out. Sometimes exile is exactly where you need to be to discover who you really are. Welcome to the most paradoxical club in the world, where membership means you'll never quite belong anywhere else again. The loneliness that comes with authentic living isn't just about having fewer friends, though that's definitely part of it. It's about the deeper realization that most human connections are built on shared illusions rather than shared truth. When you remove the masks and stop playing the social games that everyone else relies on, you discover just how much of normal relationship building depends on mutual deception. It's like showing up to a costume party in regular clothes. Technically, you're more honest, but you're also completely out of place. The psychological exile of awakening creates a unique kind of isolation that's hard to explain to people who haven't experienced it. You're not antisocial, you're selectively social. You're not negative, you're just done pretending that obvious problems don't exist. You're not difficult, you're just no longer willing to make everyone else comfortable at the expense of your own authentic self. But try explaining that to someone who's still deep in the performance, and you'll sound like you're speaking a foreign language. They hear criticism when you offer observation, judgment when you express discernment, and arrogance when you simply refuse to play along with conversations that feel meaningless. What makes this particularly challenging is that your standards for connection have fundamentally changed. Small talk feels like torture, surface-level friendships feel like elaborate wastes of time, and social gatherings often leave you feeling more alone than if you'd stayed home. You're looking for something most people don't even know exists, genuine human connection based on truth rather than performance. It's like being hungry for a meal that's not on any menu, craving conversations that go beneath the surface, relationships that can handle honesty without falling apart. The loneliness isn't just about being physically alone. It's about being surrounded by people who are terrified of the very authenticity you're desperately seeking. But here's where things get interesting, and this is crucial to understand. The loneliness of authenticity isn't a bug in the system, it's a feature. It's not a punishment for seeing clearly, it's a necessary passage through the wilderness that leads to something extraordinary. Just like a forest fire clears away dead underbrush to make room for new growth, the social isolation that comes with awakening burns away relationships and connections that were never really serving you anyway. You're not losing friends, you're discovering which relationships were actually built on substance and which ones were just elaborate mutual performances. And once you've cleared away all the fake connections, you'll finally have room for something most people never experience. Freedom sounds beautiful until you actually have it. And then you realize why most people choose prison over possibility. When you stop living according to societal expectations and start making choices based on your authentic self, you discover something terrifying. You're completely responsible for your own life. No more blaming the system, no more hiding behind. That's just how things are. No more comfortable conformity to keep you warm at night. The psychological freedom that comes with seeing reality clearly is like being handed the keys to your own life and realizing you have no idea how to drive. This is what philosophers call existential anxiety, the overwhelming weight of unlimited possibility combined with the knowledge that every choice you make is entirely your own. When you're following society's script, decisions are easy because someone else has already made them for you. Go to school, get a job, buy a house, get married, have kids, retire, die. It's predictable, safe, and soul-crushingly boring, but at least you never have to wonder if you're making the right choice. Once you've seen through the performance, though, every single decision becomes a conscious choice about who you want to be and how you want to live. And that level of responsibility can be absolutely paralyzing. The terrible freedom also means accepting that most of the meaning people find in their lives is completely made up, and then having to create your own meaning from scratch. The job that once felt important because society said it was important now feels hollow because you can see it's just another cog in a machine that produces nothing of real value. The social status that once made you feel valuable now feels like fool's gold because you understand it's based on other people's opinions rather than genuine worth. The goals you were taught to chase, money, fame, approval, now seem like elaborate distractions from the real questions. Who are you when nobody's watching? What actually matters to you? What kind of life would you live if you weren't afraid? Here's the beautiful and terrifying truth about authentic existence. Once you've tasted real freedom, you can never go back to being satisfied with comfortable slavery. You might occasionally miss the simplicity of following someone else's rules, the security of knowing exactly what's expected of you, the ease of blending into the crowd. But you'll never again be able to pretend that other people's definitions of success are your own, or that society's version of a meaningful life has anything to do with what actually fulfills you. The freedom is terrible because it's total, and it's yours whether you want it or not. But here's what nobody tells you about walking this path alone. Here's the secret that nobody mentions in all those Wake Up and Be Authentic articles. There are others out there who've walked through the same fire you have. They might not advertise themselves with neon signs or secret handshakes, but once you know what to look for, you'll start recognizing fellow travelers on the path of authentic living. They're the ones who ask deeper questions in conversations, who seem comfortable with silence, who don't rush to fill every awkward moment with meaningless chatter. They've learned to spot each other across crowded rooms full of performers, like survivors of the same shipwreck recognizing each other by the way they've learned to swim. The challenge is that finding your authentic tribe requires a completely different approach than traditional socializing. You can't just show up to networking events or download dating apps and filter for people who see through society's BS. These connections happen organically, often in unexpected places. The person who makes an insightful comment during a workshop, the coworker who shares your genuine concern about meaningful work, the neighbor who talks about philosophy while walking their dog. What makes these connections special isn't shared interests or similar backgrounds. It's a shared commitment to truth over comfort, growth over stagnation, authenticity over acceptance. Building relationships with other awakened individuals is like learning a new language after spending years communicating through social performance. The conversations go deeper faster, the bullshit tolerance is lower, and there's an understanding that everyone's still figuring things out as they go. You don't have to pretend to have all the answers or maintain some perfect image. In fact, vulnerability and uncertainty are often what create the strongest bonds. These people have been through their own dark nights of the soul, their own periods of isolation and questioning, their own struggles with living authentically in an inauthentic world. What's beautiful about connecting with your real tribe is that it proves something crucial. You're not broken, crazy, or fundamentally flawed for refusing to play society's games. You're just awake in a world full of sleepwalkers, and there are others who've chosen the same difficult path toward genuine existence. You'll often find these connections in unexpected spaces. The local bookstore's philosophy section, where someone lingers over Nietzsche, volunteer work focused on genuine causes rather than social status, small discussion groups about personal development, or even online communities where people share real struggles instead of highlight reels. These relationships don't just provide comfort and understanding, they become laboratories for practicing authentic living, spaces where you can experiment with being your real self without fear of judgment or rejection. And once you've experienced what genuine human connection feels like, you'll never again be satisfied with surface-level relationships. But knowing your tribe exists is just the beginning. The real challenge is learning how to live authentically in a world that's still mostly asleep. All right, let's talk strategy. You've seen through the illusion. You've survived the social exile. You've found your tribe. Now what? How do you actually navigate day-to-day life when you can see the performance but still have to pay rent, maintain relationships, and function in a world that runs on comfortable lies? The art of authentic living isn't about burning everything down and moving to a cabin in the woods, though that's always an option. It's about learning to be genuinely yourself while still engaging with the world as it is. The first skill you'll need to master is what I call strategic authenticity, knowing when to engage fully, when to observe silently, and when to gracefully extract yourself from situations that drain your soul. You don't have to call out every piece of social theater you witness, but you also don't have to participate in performances that violate your core values. It's like being bilingual. You can speak the language of social conformity when necessary while maintaining your native tongue of authentic expression. The key is conscious choice rather than automatic reaction. You're not being fake when you choose your battles. You're being strategic about where to invest your energy for maximum impact. This means developing a whole new relationship with work, relationships, and social situations. In your career, you might find ways to bring genuine value and meaning to even mundane tasks, or you might gradually transition toward work that aligns with your authentic values. In relationships, you'll learn to have deeper conversations without overwhelming people, to share your real thoughts without attacking their illusions, to maintain connections with people at different stages of awakening. In social situations, you'll become skilled at asking questions that invite others to think more deeply while respecting their right to stay on the surface, if that's where they're comfortable. The ultimate goal isn't to convert everyone to your way of seeing. It's to live as an example of what's possible when someone chooses truth over comfort, authenticity over approval, growth over stagnation. You become a walking invitation for others to examine their own lives more closely. Some will be curious, some will be threatened, most will be indifferent, and that's perfectly fine. Your job isn't to wake everyone up. It's to live so authentically that the people who are ready to question their own performances will be drawn to the light you're carrying. You're not trying to fix the world, you're trying to live in it as your genuine self while creating space for others to do the same. And sometimes, that quiet revolution is the most powerful force for change there is. So here we are, at the crossroads between comfortable lies and uncomfortable truth. You've just learned why seeing through society's performance feels like permanent exile. And more importantly, you've discovered that you're not alone in this psychological wilderness. But knowing isn't enough. The real question is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Here's your challenge for the next 48 hours. I want you to conduct a simple experiment. Pay attention to every conversation you have, every social interaction, every moment when you feel the urge to put on a mask or play a role that isn't authentically you. Don't try to change anything yet, just observe. Notice when people, including yourself, shift into performance mode. Watch how the energy in rooms changes when someone dares to be genuine versus when everyone stays safely on the surface. Start seeing the matrix of social conformity that surrounds you every single day. But here's the really important part. I need you to ask yourself this brutal question. If you keep living the way you're living right now, pretending to care about things that don't matter, maintaining relationships built on mutual deception, chasing goals that society told you were important, where will you be in 5 years? Will you be closer to your authentic self or further away? Because here's the hard truth. Every day you choose comfort over authenticity, you're not staying the same. You're moving backward. Now, if this video hit you like a lightning bolt of recognition, if you felt understood in a way that most content never manages to achieve, then I need you to do something crucial right now. First, smash that like button, and I mean really think about it before you do. That like tells YouTube that conversations about authentic living matter, that there's an audience hungry for content that goes beneath the surface of social performance. Your engagement literally determines whether videos like this reach other people who are struggling with the same psychological exile you've experienced. Second, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell, because we're building something special here, a community of people who've chosen difficult truth over comfortable lies. This is the only channel that combines deep philosophical wisdom with practical psychology for people who refuse to accept society's default settings for how life should be lived. This isn't just another philosophy channel. This is a gathering place for individuals who've walked through the fire of awakening and come out the other side stronger, clearer, and more authentically themselves. Every week we dive deep into the practical philosophy and psychology that can help you navigate authentic existence in an inauthentic world. And here's something I rarely ask, but it's crucial. If you know someone who's struggling with feeling like an outsider, someone who's been questioning whether they're crazy for seeing through the social performance around them, share this video with them. Not because it'll magically solve their problems, but because it might help them realize they're not alone in this journey. Sometimes the most powerful gift you can give another person is the knowledge that their experience is valid and that others have walked this path before them. Drop a comment below and tell me, what was your moment of awakening? When did you first realize that everyone around you was performing rather than living? I read every single comment, and your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to feel less alone in their own psychological exile. This community we're building thrives on these shared experiences of seeing too much and learning to live authentically anyway. Remember, choosing authenticity over approval isn't a one-time decision, It's a daily practice, a continuous commitment to your genuine self in a world that profits from your performance. The path isn't easy, but it's yours. And that makes all the difference.